President Biden's age and mental fitness have become top concerns for American voters. And, well, it's not hard to see why they would be concerned about how he's doing. He is now skipping the traditional and iconic Super Bowl interview. Presidents do this sort of thing, especially in election years, because that audience is enormous. Just yesterday, President Biden appeared to forget the word Hamas. Oh, forget about it. Not just the word, the group, when he was asked about hostages being held in Gaza.
There's some movement. There's been a response from there's been a response from the opposition, but yes, I'm sorry, from Hamas.
Well, that's a really bad choice of words, because that's what he sees as his political opponents, the opposition. So he really couldn't think of Hamas. This past Sunday, Biden said he recently met with French President François Mitterrand, who passed away in 1996.
Right after I was elected, I went to what they call a G7 meeting, all the NATO leaders. And I sat down and I said, America's back. And Mitterrand from from France, looked at me and said, you know, how long are you back for?
Yeah, well, we know that this is true. Don't even bother asking the White House spokespeople about Biden's embarrassing mix-ups. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre is not talking.
How is President Biden ever going to convince the 3/4 of voters who are worried about his physical and mental health that he is okay, even though in Las Vegas he told a story about recently talking to a French president who died in 1996?
I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole with you, sir.
What is
We're
the
going to
rabbit hole?
Go ahead.
He said he talked to Mitterrand.
Go ahead. You saw the president in Vegas, in California. You've seen the president in South Carolina. You saw him in Michigan. I'll just leave it there.
Well, we'll get to the medical part in a second of all of this. Kayleigh McEnany, you've had that job. You know that question is coming. You know it's coming. Is that how you handle that?
No, you are not dismissive of what could, I guess, best be described as the #1 concern of American voters as it pertains to your principal, President Joe Biden. Every poll, 3/4 of voters say he's too old, he lacks the mental acuity. The NBC poll, 46 to 23, I believe it was, they believe Trump has the necessary physical and mental fitness vis-a-vis Biden. So you don't dismiss this as a rabbit hole, because the rabbit hole happens to be the assessment of the American people. What you do is what she sort of leaned into in the second part of that answer. I would have had a whole list in front of me.
Right.
Today, he was in the Situation Room for a briefing. Then he was on the phone with congressional leaders about the border wall. Then he, was with this special interest group. Then he went to 3 fundraisers. Like, you list out what he's doing. You don't dismiss the question, call it a rabbit hole, but.
Dr. Siegel, last hour I had on Mark Penn. He's a guru among Democrats and a polling genius. He said that he's been brushing off the whole age and fitness thing up until that moment because of where we are in the war between Israel and Hamas. He said that gave him particular pause, because what he realizes is he may not have a grasp of right now, and Hamas is a big deal right now. You can't just not get that right.
France is a big deal, too, and he almost said Germany. Listen, Harris, I like what you said in the last hour. I watched you on the Focus with this, and you said it's not about age. It's about fitness. It's about mental acuity, and that's the medical issue here. Absolutely the medical issue here, because he may retain some of his political skills, but you also said something to me that I also agree with. He's gotten meaner. He used to be a deal maker. He used to be someone that reached across the aisle. That executive function is eroding to me. And I've talked to top neurologists about this. He's losing his memory for sure. But in addition to that, he's losing some of the skills that we need for leadership. And the American people need to vote on that. And they should be watching him at the Super Bowl. If he would agree to come, that's where we make that assessment.
And that's what Mark Penn said. This should be the #1 priority for the White House, is to get that monster interview, because, Trump wants it. Would they give it to Trump? Can you imagine? Biden might cry on camera.
And remember how Karine Jean-Pierre dismissed it, which was that, well, we know that people are focused on the game, she said. But the point is that part of it was tradition. So then I guess, does that dovetail in with their deliberate strategy? Is their communications director called his absolute refusal to engage with the press? They said, we'll meet Americans where they're at. pretty sure everyone on Sunday is going to be watching that game. So why don't you meet everyone where they're at? We know the reason.
Yeah. Wow. Leslie.
I think it's good that he doesn't do it, especially with this whole
Why?
Taylor Swift conspiracy
Oh,
that
he's
she's
not caught up in
conspired.
that.
Right? No, he's not caught up with that. But this is the reason. Everybody has been complaining with Taylor Swift that you can't just watch football. Can't just football be football? Can't we just have the NFL? And I think if the president speaks before, even though it's tradition,
Is that
the game
seriously your
at this
concern
time,
more than the
yes,
gaps we've just shown you?
I'm saying I don't think that he should speak of the Super Bowl because I think you're trying to mix politics and football, and everybody wants to focus on football for the game.
They like the pageantry too, not just football.
It seems to me that
Yeah,
all of the
that's
strategy of the White House has always been for this president, with the use of TikTok, with the use of influencers, as they say, to reach a wider audience at different levels. So if your point were true, then they would absolutely harness it because the whole point is the accessibility that it would afford them, not being a distraction. It would be great. Now we can get our message of success out to you guys. Oh, wait, that's not a real message.
Well, I think about all the presidents who have done this.
Right.
And how long a news flow they get after doing that interview at the Super Bowl, because most of them don't do a sit down for a little while because they have the Super Bowl. Wow.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.